Hey guys, this is BL here, and I'm making this very first tutorial after I got some messages from people asking me how I do some of my works. So thank you guys for being curious, and in case you don't know me, you can find me on behance.net/bhl, and I'm gonna show you guys how I created this scene here with Cinema 4D and REDSHIFT. So it's quite simple to achieve this result. And yeah, without any further ado, let's jump right into Cinema 4D. So yeah, here we are in our file inside of Cinema 4D, and I just want to do a quick review here, just comparing with the final render. So here we have these these cells, and I created something to to have a better look to it. I put some of these capsules inside of the spheres just to kind of resemble something like a cell with some nutrients inside of it. And we have also these dust here to create an atmosphere. And so we have these lines with these spheres. I use the cloner to randomize the size of the spheres, and the main thing, which is this plane with the pattern, I used like the matrix to achieve it. So it's just these these small spheres, these main spheres here, and the pattern, which I created these drawings, these shapes inside of Adobe Illustrator. These are the shapes, and yeah, let's build it from scratch. So yeah, we just need to start with a plane. So let's create a plane, and if you don't see the segments, you can go here on display and hit the wireframe, or you can use the NC to hide or ND to show your segments. Let's create more segments to the plane. Maybe 80 is enough, I guess. And I'm gonna apply the Displacer Modifier, which is one of my favorites inside of Cinema 4D. If you're not familiar with Displacer, it's a modifier that creates some distortions on the surface based on textures, and it's totally procedural. So I'm going to show you how it works. You just put as a child of the plane, and then you go here, select your displacer, go to shading, shader, and I'm going to apply the noise. So that's it. You can see here the texture. You're gonna see like this. You can click here. You're gonna get more parameters so you can play with, like the global size, and also you can play with the x-axis, like to create this kind of horizontal waves, which is the shape I want to create for this tutorial. But you can play. You have a lot of great parameters here. You can animate, you can play with everything, but I'm not gonna dive into all these details. I'm gonna just play with this, the global scale and these x-axis. So to me is okay. I just need to add a little bit more volume to it, more depth. And so you go here and you go back to the main parameters, and you go to object, and you increase the height a little bit. So that's it. I think for me is okay. Actually, I just need to increase a little bit more the global size. So maybe something around 600. No, that was too much. Maybe 400. Yes, I think it's enough. Let me see the original image. Yes, I think it's enough. We can change it later if you want to, because it's going to be all procedural, so you can mess with it, you can animate, you can do a lot of great things after you achieve the final result. You can change the plane segments and you can do whatever you want, and as it is procedural, it's going to respect all your adjustments. So what we need now is to add a matrix to our scene. I usually use this command line here, which is a Shift C, and I can write whatever tool I want to add to my scene. So I'm gonna add my matrix. So here it is. And what we need to do here is to tell the matrix to follow the surface of our plane. So how we do that? We go here, select the matrix, and go to Object. You can see Mode, and then you choose Object. And then you can drag your plane to this object here. So that's it. And we already have the matrix following the surface, but it's quite random. Let me I increase the the amount of particles here, but it's quite random. I want this the matrix to follow every vertex of my plane, so I can go here on distribution, and instead of surface I can change to vertex. So here we go. I'm gonna decrease a little bit the size of these particles so you can see better. Maybe 0.5 or 0.2. Yes, 0.2. As you can see, the points are squares actually, and you can't see these points on the render. I'm using REDSHIFT, so if you hit the play here, you won't be able to see the points. So why is that? The matrix works like a particle system, I guess, in this aspect. So you have to replace the squares by other shapes. So how you do that with the REDSHIFT? It's quite easy. You go to Matrix, right click, and you go to REDSHIFT tags, REDSHIFT object. And here you have the particles. You can change here to spheres. You can play with the size. Or you have some limited parameters here, but you can put the custom objects, which is how the magic happens. And as I mentioned before, I did my shapes on Illustrator. I did these drawings here. I don't know if you're familiar with Illustrator. I'm not going to dive into it, but you can basically use the rectangle tool and draw your shape. You have these small dots here that helps you to round the corners. You can add more points. You can add more points to your shape here to play a little bit. And then the great thing of Illustrator is always gives you these small dots that you can refine the corner after you achieve the shape you want to. So basically it's what I did to create the shapes here. And then you have to import inside of Cinema 4D. So how you do that? It's a little bit tricky, because you have actually to save your scene, your Illustrator file in old version. You have to save Illustrator 8. So if you don't save this version, it's not gonna work inside of Cinema 4D. It's not gonna import actually. So you have to use this version 8. And you also have to draw some simple shapes here. It doesn't work with too much complex shapes, I guess. But this is so simple, and I'm gonna actually import my shapes from my original file. My original file, I have the shapes here. I added some extra elements to it, and each one has its own material. So I'm gonna import all these elements to my new scene, and here they are, and I have already the materials applied to it. And how can I replace them to put them in my matrix? So you go here in the REDSHIFT tags, and you just lock here a little bit for a while, and you have this window locked, so you can select everything without changing the window, and you just drag all of them to this custom objects window, and that's it. You're not gonna see the objects on the viewport because it can mess up with your file. It's gonna be so heavy to rotate the camera or to animate everything, but you can see everything on your REDSHIFT real-time window. So here it is. I already have everything applied, and what I can do here is to play a little bit with the I select my matrix. Oh, I have to unlock here. Always remember, if you lock here, it's never going to change when you select other objects here on the list. So you have to unlock this, this locker here. So now I'm able to see the other parameters. So I'm gonna rotate a little bit. You go here on matrix, transform. I'm gonna rotate a little bit. Let me see. Maybe here's enough. Just let me close up a little bit. So yeah, and I have actually to decrease the size a little bit, so they are actually intersecting with each other. So I'm going to decrease the size to make them respect each other sizes. So that's it. But they are actually I have to hide this plane on the render. You just pick this red dot here, so you're not going to see on the render, and this one here you're not going to see on the viewport. But I need some floor to the scene, so I'm going to duplicate this plane. I'm going to show on the scene, and then I'm going to actually move a little bit my plane above the main one. Okay, now I can see my plane is right above my particles. It's not intersecting anymore, and it doesn't have a great material. I'm gonna just pick this dark one to my plane and see what happens. Oh, it didn't work. Let me see why. So what's going on? Let me just apply from here. Oh, that's okay. That's it. I already have, but actually it's kind of, I can see everything. Let me just keep it without any material, and I have to increase the segments here on my plane in this, let me see, high axis. No, in this the width axis, like, oh no, I was wrong actually. Yes, that's it. Just to make them more close to each other and to create this amazing surface. That's it, guys. That's how we do everything, but we need to, of course, change some things. I want to randomize everything, so you go here on the REDSHIFT tag, particles, and then you can see distribution sequential, so you just put random. And you can play with the seed. Actually, it depends on your camera, so let's play with the seed later when we have our camera set. So here we have our distribution with some random, and what we can do now is just do some final adjustments, like let me just increase a little bit more these segments here to make them closer to each other and to avoid those spaces between them. And that's it. I think that's enough, and that's okay. Now we can see they are so close to each other and it looks like a texture. But what we can do now is to find a great angle. So here it depends on, actually we have to play a little bit with the lights too, so we can find the great, we can see more volume to our scene. So what I'm going to do is to apply my material on my floor, and then I'm going to create the dome light. And I'm gonna put HDR here. You can pick whatever HDR you have in your computer. I'm gonna use this one, not this one. Maybe this one. That's okay. I'm gonna decrease the exposure. Oh, it's looking good. You see these reflections here? I can rotate my dome light a little bit just to have, oh, that's nice. Look at that. Look at that. And now we start to see the volume of our plane, and we can play a little bit more with the camera. So I'm going to decrease a little bit more, and I feel that I already have some great angle here. Maybe I can put the camera here. Oh, this is great, guys. Look at that. So I think this is a great start to our camera. So yeah, I'm gonna create a camera here. You go here on REDSHIFT, camera, standard. What you can do to lock your camera here is just select, enable your camera, and just hit this button here, which is going to create all the keyframes to your camera. And if you mess up here, if I change a little bit the camera angle, you just go here on your timeline and, oh, it didn't work. What happened? Oh, because the camera angle is here. I was using the perspective view. So you go here on your camera view. If you change the angle and you are in this camera view, and don't worry, since you have your keyframes here, you just just go to any place here in your timeline, and it's going to go back to your first position. And we have here some intersections going on. I'm going to decrease a little bit more my elements, just a little bit, And also I created a lot of segments on the horizontal lines. I'm gonna decrease a little bit more, maybe something, just to avoid them to intersect with each other. And I have a little bit more of informations from the floor, so this is also important. So now we can see we have more information of the space between them, and then they are not intersecting anymore. It looks good, right? And here, of course, we can add some depth of field. You go here on the camera, bokeh, and you enable everything. One thing you can do is to, I'm gonna lock my render here. You just select the camera, hit this locker here, and you can mess with another view and it's not gonna change here. You keep seeing what the camera is showing. So I'm gonna create a cube, and this is going to be my focus information. It's not going to show on the render. I'm just gonna decrease the size. It's so big, maybe 20. And I have, let me see, I have my cube here. It's a great place to focus with my camera. So I'm gonna just position a little bit more close to the camera, and then I don't want to see this cube on my render, so I just click here to have this red dot, so it's not going to show in the render anymore, but I can still see on the viewport. So you just select your camera, and here you have the focus object. You just drag your focus cube to this parameter here. So now we have the focus where the cube is. So I can move the cube and the focus is going to change. If I move the cube to more close to the camera, you can see the focus here. So it's beautiful. I can let this focus here, I guess, maybe to decrease the cock radius, which is going to decrease the blur of the defocus. So I'm going to put 0.3 actually. So that's it. Looks good. So let's go to the next step, which is to create maybe another light actually, to give more of that warm light here. I'm gonna create an area light, and I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna decrease the size, and let me rotate it a little bit and put it right here. No, it's too much. Maybe here. You can see this light is creating some reflections here, which is great. It's so intense. So let me just decrease the intensity to 10. Let me see. Turn on, turn off. Oh, it's creating a great reflection information and a great lighting here. I'm just gonna decrease a little bit more to 2, but I'm going to increase the size of the area so we can actually increase the reflection information here without too much light intensity. So as you can see, it's creating more information. I think it's too much, and maybe, yeah, it's looking okay. It's just for you to understand what we can do. I'm gonna decrease a little bit more, and I'm gonna make it yellow. So you go here and you put yellow color, not too much, just a little bit. Yeah, so we have a little bit of yellow light, and it looks better. And I'm gonna actually increase a little bit more my light, the intensity, and yeah, it's looking good. So what we can do next is maybe to start play with the spheres. So let's create these spheres. So let's keep going, and now we are gonna create our spheres, and we don't need this cube here anymore. I'm just gonna hide it, and I'm gonna organize a little bit more my file, like grouping some of the elements, the lights for example, and I think you're good to go. Let me just group these planes here. You can rename everything, like the floor and the plane, like the emitter of the matrix, and you can group this like matrix. That's okay. We have a little bit of organization to our file, and now we're going to create our sphere. Let me change to the perspective view. I'm going to hit the ND, and let me just change to wireframe. Let me increase the segments to 50 and decrease the size to maybe 10. Okay, that's great. A little bit more, and I'm gonna apply to the sphere the cloth surface. The cloth surface, which is going to create like a layered sphere. It's gonna duplicate the sphere, like creating a thickness, but I can use it like I'm creating one sphere inside of another instead of duplicating the sphere. I like to use it this way too, instead of just creating the thickness. So I'm gonna in this subdivisions parameters, I'm gonna put 0, and I'm gonna to increase this a little bit more. So you can see right now I'm gonna just put here lines, so now we can see we have another sphere inside of other. So this is great, because if you want to animate later, you can just animate the size of the sphere, and it kind of gives you these different velocity on the animation. This is so great, and gives you some kind of organic movements. But we're not talking about animation, but it's just a kind of a preparation for a future animation if you're doing some project. So this is great to think of before. And but yeah, let's keep this just like this, and then what I can do here is just rename it. Like I'm gonna put cell, and I'm gonna apply a glass material. So let me put a material here, a REDSHIFT material, and I can click double click the material, and we have some presets here. I'm gonna choose the glass material, and let's see how it's working on the render. Oh, I didn't apply the material to the sphere, so let me apply it. So now we have our glass material applied to the sphere. So it's okay. It's not looking good yet. We have to change some things, like maybe a little bit of actually that's another thing that I like to test. Like I'm gonna apply another cloth surface to the one I created to duplicate the spheres, because it added a little bit of thickness to both spheres. Let me try decrease the subdivisions, and let me increase a little bit the thickness. So that's it. Now it looks good because it added some thickness to both spheres. You can see here. Let me just play with it a little bit more, like so. You can see the thickness changing and looks good. But this time you just keep a little bit, you don't increase too much, just to have these light refractions. It's not distorting everything behind it, and creates this kind of shadows around the object. Because if I remove this, you're gonna see everything distorted, and I can play with it on the material. Like I can decrease the IOR to something around on the reflection, but the refraction, you unlink the reflection with the refraction. It's default here. You just uncheck this, and then you play with the IOR from the refraction. It's gonna decrease a little bit of these distortions here. So let me put a 1.2, and now we can see it's kind of decreasing the distortion. You can see it doesn't look good actually, because it's not creating a kind of a weight to the object. It looks like something virtual, not an object, a glass object on the scene. So we really need to add this second cloud surface. So we have these, now we have this glassy material, this glassy object that has its own weight. So I think it's great. I think if we change here, it's not going to change too much. Let's just keep to the default, like 1.5. Or we change just a little bit. It brings more of this black thing here, but I'm going to decrease. Let's keep 1.1. Nothing too much, but I think this looks better. And now I'm going to actually add a little bit more of glossiness to roughness to my reflection, just a little bit on the reflection, and also a little bit on the refraction. This is going to make your render so heavy, but the result is really amazing. So let me put just maybe a little bit, point something, 0.2, 0.3, 0.2. Yeah, it looks good, you see? So yeah, we have our main cell. Let me rename it here. Okay, we have our cell here. And what we are going to do next is to add a cloner to the scene. Shift-C, cloner, and then we can create a capsule. So we have our capsule here. Let's decrease the size of our capsule. We want it to be very, very small. And let's see, I think this proportion is okay, but I'm gonna scale down this a little bit more. So yeah, I think this is gonna work. And then I'm gonna apply it to the cloner. And our cloner is here at the center of the scene, and you can change your cloner. You select your cloner, you go to object, and you select this grid array. So it's going to create like a box, but then you have to decrease the size. It's 200. You put just maybe 10, 10, and 10 to all these parameters, and that's okay. But we have to add another great stuff here, which is the random. So you select the cloner, Shift C, random, and once you have selected your cloner, it's going to add the random automatically to it. So you can see it's just changing the position. So what you have to do is to select your random, go to parameter, and we have the position here checked. So you decrease the size to maybe 10 on each axis, so it's inside the sphere. The thing here is to put everything inside of the cell. So, and then you can play a little bit with the scale, and you check the scale, uniform scale, and you just change a little bit. So it's all of them are you know, big, I guess. Maybe I should just decrease everything and just select the capsule with the scale tool and just decrease the size. So that's it. You decrease the size, and then you go back to the random and you check the rotation randomness. So you just can maybe play with 180 degrees. I think it's great. So yeah, this is just you can play the way you prefer, like position everything the way you prefer. Maybe this is looking good enough, I guess. Let me just decrease a little bit the size of the cloner to maybe something, maybe 8. Oh, let me put 6, because we keep everything close to the core of the cell. So now it's looking great. And you can put this like maybe nutrients. Okay, and then we have to apply material. I think what I did with these nutrients, I added a light material actually, and you create a material and then you apply to it, and we have here, and you go here on overall. You select the color you want it to be. I want it to be white, and then on the emission weight you just maybe can put 20. So I think it's gonna work fine. So let's see on our render. Oh, I think it's too much actually. Maybe 10 or 5, or actually it's not the overall. I think just the white material is enough. So base properties, and we go to the color and we change to white. No, it's not working. Actually, we need a little bit of emission. Yes, we really need a little bit of emission. Maybe 3. No, it's too much. 1.3. Yeah, it's 0.5. Yes, maybe it's okay. 0.7. Yeah, maybe it's okay, because or let me see the original image. Actually, it's not so emissive. Actually, we can decrease a little bit more, because once you take the final render to, for example, After Effects, to do some color correction, you're gonna add a little bit of glow, a little bit of contrast, and then I think it's gonna be too much white. So maybe we should keep it like 4.4. Okay, that's enough. That's okay. Oh, we have another thing here which is interesting to do, which is the dispersion on the glass parameter, which is a great, I don't know how to explain the dispersion, but it gives some color to your glass. This is really great. I love this effect actually. It takes more time to render sometimes, but it looks really great. So you go here on the refraction, and you maybe can put 2 to the dispersion, and we start to see some colors and some distortions to our nutrients. So hope you guys can see the difference. I'm gonna decrease again without dispersion, and now with dispersion. So it looks really beautiful, these colors that were added to the glass material, so, and interferes in all the objects inside of it, so it gives you illusion, some kind of illusion effect. So this is really great. And maybe I can increase a little bit of this cloth size, maybe 2. No, it's not changing too much. Maybe 1 is enough. Let's keep it like the way it is. So let's see on the camera, actually, because we are in the different angle. Maybe we can see what's going on. Okay, we have it here. Now we are going to actually group everything, and we have our main cell. I'm going to decrease the size. Yes, it's looking good. Maybe we are gonna have to change the focus position to have a little bit more resolution to the spheres, but let's play a little bit before with the spheres, with the sphere position, just to see what we can get from just changing the position. So let's see the original image. We don't have it too much blurry. Maybe I should just really play with it a little bit. I'm moving the cube, which is the focus. It's not showing the viewport, but we can see on the render window a little bit of changing. Yeah, I think it's great enough. It's just to show you guys how it works. So to create all these spheres, you have a lot of options depending on your scene. If you want to animate like a random animation, I would suggest you to use the cloner. But in this case, I'm just going to actually duplicate each cell and position the way I want, instead of using the cloner to create a lot of spheres. You know, it's simpler. We can achieve a great result. I'm just copying it and reposition everything, like scale down a little bit. I can bring some of the spheres closer to the camera, maybe something like this, so we have a little bit more of resolution here, more like side of focus, and then I can decrease the size and copy a little bit more. Yeah, it's looking good. So I think it's looking good, right? Maybe I can change the camera a little bit, just to maybe to reframe the scene. I'm not gonna I'm gonna keep these keyframes here. I'm just gonna turn on these here, which is the automatic keyframe creator. Like if you move the camera, it's going to create an automatic keyframe to it. no matter what you're doing, is always gonna create automatic keyframes. So maybe this is okay, and maybe a little bit. Yeah, I think it's looking better. So if you select your camera here, you can see the keyframe were created, and you can compare both positions. Like this is the new one, and then you hit here, and it's gonna jump to this keyframe here. And I think this is better because it keeps the spheres here on the corner like I did here. And but this part of the image is so dark, we don't have these we have more information here, and I think I should just maybe increase the size of my light. Let's do it. I'm gonna lock here again so we can just keep the render in this camera. I'm gonna disable this here, so I don't want to create any extra keyframe to objects, and I'm gonna go to my light. So let's create some more reflection information. Actually, I'm gonna duplicate this light because I like this light the way it is. I don't want to lose this information. I can just create another light and bring it here. Now we have some more reflection here, and I can not decrease the size, just decrease the intensity. Like, let me put maybe 0.6, 0.4. So now we have a little bit of dark place here, but we don't lose the information of the objects. So I think it's great enough, but it's totally focused inside of the focus. I don't want it to be so focused. Maybe I should change the camera a little bit more. Maybe I'm gonna try actually I'm gonna try a third camera position. It's always a combination between your lighting, your camera, your objects. You have to test every time what you're doing, because during your creative process you can change your mind all the time. So this is looking really interesting, because we have these elements bigger, close to camera, maybe a little bit more, not too much. That was too much. Yeah, it's looking good. So let's keep it bright. Let's compare the keyframes. This is the second one, or the first one, the second one, and the third one. Yeah, the third one is better. I'm gonna keep it like this. So okay, I'm not gonna delete these keyframes here because I'm not doing any animation. So the more information you can keep, the better. So you won't lose something great you did in the past, and then you want to go back and try it again. So just keep your informations, everything you do, as a to assure yourself that you have other options in case your client doesn't like what you're doing, or even yourself. So we have this information. This is looking really great here. We have these information on focus, and then we have this dark place doesn't bother me actually. Maybe we can just increase a little bit more of the cock radius to have more blur maybe 0.5. Oh, this is interesting, but we are losing the spheres, right? So maybe we can play more with the cube, which is our focus, and then move it a little bit towards the spheres so we can have a little bit more information on the... Yeah, it's not looking good yet. No, actually we don't want the spheres to be on focus. We just want them to be a little bit out of focus. And so let me see the scene from another angle. So I have my cube here. Oh, actually these spheres are close to the camera. I forgot this. And they are so big, maybe I should just decrease its size because they are fighting with the main sphere here. And maybe I should just decrease its size a little bit, so it's not going to fight with the main sphere. And this one's a little bit high to height. Yeah, it's looking interesting. Let me just duplicate this here once more and just put it right here to maybe create a little bit more information here. It's already looking good, I guess. It's just a matter of playing with your object and see what you can achieve. So it's looking good, right? It's not totally focused, but it's looking good, I think. Let me just try a little bit more here with the cube. Just move it to the spheres a little bit. Yeah, I think this is looking good. What do you think, guys? Maybe it's not this one. Actually, I can see that we have this should be a little bit bigger, I guess, and maybe we can do that right now. Let's try to match a little bit more with this here. So now we can the matrix here, matrix elements. Oh, before that, I'm gonna decrease the segments of my plane here, which is going to open more space between the objects. And let's see how it goes from here. So it's getting interesting. Even these spaces here are creating some great line informations that, yeah, I think looks great actually. But let me just decrease a little bit more this, and let's see. I'm gonna increase a little bit more this one here, and let me increase the size of the elements. You just choose the scale tool, and then whatever you hit the screen is gonna scale your objects, so you don't have to worry to select the objects on the viewport. So that's it, guys. I think it's looking good actually. And yeah, let me see here. Actually, I'm going to try another thing new, which is going to, of course, to be more close to this, because I think these objects are in the wrong direction. I think I need to rotate them. So let's try do that. We're gonna have to play a little bit more with the segments, but let me just save this one here in case we mess up with everything, and let's try it. Yes, let's try it. What I'm gonna do is to select the matrix here, and maybe I need to try 180. No, maybe here. Oh no, it's here, 90%. So that's it. 90% is that's correct. So, and then we have to decrease the size of the elements. Actually, we're not going to decrease the size of the elements. We are going to decrease the plane segments here. Oh, it's not this. This one we have to increase, and this one we have to decrease. So we avoid the intersections between them. Maybe 60, or not 60, maybe, yeah, 68. Let's see, and let's increase the other one. Oh, it's looking better. It's looking better, isn't it? It's more close to this one. I'm missing some kind of blue light here, but maybe we can do this on the compositing to match a little bit more of these colors here. Maybe to put some blue here, and let me increase a little bit more of the segments here, and there we go. Yeah, it's looking good. Yeah, looks good to me. And let's move ahead. What we can do now is to, maybe I'm gonna decrease the cock radius a little bit to 4. And what else we are gonna do? Let me see here. So actually I think we need to, oh, let's create these lines here with these small spheres. We're going to use the same sphere that we used here. But the thing is, we have to create the lines with almost the same shape as the plane. So what we're going to do is to duplicate the plane. We have the emitter, which is going to be our instead of duplicating the 4, we are going to duplicate this one here, which is the emitter. And then what we can do is to turn on the plane on the render. So we are going to move it a little bit to put on top of everything. So yeah, that's what we need. And we need these lines here to be as to work as SP lines actually. So what we are going to do is to actually to convert this plane here, which is a procedural, like the original plane, we have to convert to make it editable. So we select the plane and make it editable. And then we keep the displacer, because if we want to animate the lines later with the displacer, with like the floor or the patterns, we keep the displacer so we can animate everything and keep it procedural. So what we are going to do is to first rename it like plane splines, and then we gonna select the edges. So let me just do something different here. I'm gonna select my solo viewport. So I just want to see this. You hit the UL, so you have the loop. Oh, it's looping the whole like the square. So then you just select this stop at boundary edges. So you have only these segments here. And you hold the shift button. You just select some of the segments. And I think that's enough. One more, two more. And so actually we have two. Convert everything. So I'm gonna convert everything and make it editable. So you right click, you select both, right click, connect objects, delete. So now we have the plane with these information of these wavies, but we don't have power to adjust anymore. We just have these this mesh here. But then we have this selection, and now we can play with the edge. And now I have the splines. Let me just hide this one here. Now I have the splines here. And they are, let's see. Actually, there's a way to play with splines and using and keeping the displacer. I don't know how it works yet, but I'm gonna find out, and maybe I'm gonna use in another scene, another tutorial in the future. But as we are doing something more still image, this is going to work for us. And so let's keep going. I'm gonna turn off the viewport solo, and now we have here. So plane, I'm gonna just let splines. And now what we are going to do here is to add another cloner. So this cloner is gonna call spheres, small spheres. So that's it. And what we have to do is to copy these cells here, one of them, and let's put it inside of our cloner. And our cloner, we have to, I duplicated. Let me delete this one. And in our cloner, we have to add this to make it follow the spline. So we select object to our cloner, and we drag our spline to this parameter here. and our cells are following our spline. So you can see. And what we have to do is to increase the amount of spheres, like how we do that here, to count. So we increase the size of it, or the amount of it, like 80. It's gonna be too much, maybe 50. And then we decrease the size of our sphere. It is so heavy. Let me just decrease the amount a little bit. Just let 20. And then I'm gonna decrease the size here. And actually I can decrease the sphere segments. Since we are using it so small, I can use maybe 16. It's gonna be okay. This one's gonna be out of focus, so we don't have to worry about its resolution. But we need to play a little bit more with the randomness. So what I'm going to do is to select my cloner, Shift C, type random, and apply to it. So as you can see here, my random is changing the position of everything. So I don't want this to happen. So I just go here, select my random, and select parameter. I uncheck this here. This is going to affect just the size of the spheres. And I select scale, uniform scale, and I'm gonna play a little bit, just 0.5. But my spheres are, I think they are big enough. I just need to decrease the size of it, maybe 0.1 or 0.05 or even smaller. Oh no, actually I'm doing it wrong, because this is not the original size, because I'm using the cloud surface. So I have to decrease the size with the scale tool. It's gonna work better. Okay, now we have our sphere. And then what I can do here is to increase again the amount of spheres. And maybe 150. Yes, maybe 150, and a little bit, make them a little bit smaller. And increase a little bit of the size of the random. Maybe 0.6. One. 0.8. Let's see in the render what's going on here. Yes, we have some kind of information here. It's not looking good like this one here. And that's maybe the reason I added another dome light to create more light information on these small spheres. And that's what I actually did. So let's try to do this here. So actually what I'm going to do is to decrease even more the size of these spheres. They're pretty big. Okay. No, maybe it was too much. Or maybe it was okay, not too much. Let me try again. Oh, actually the spheres are really small, and then what is increasing the size of it is just my cloth surface. So maybe I'm gonna just mess with it here. That's it. I think that's okay. And I'm gonna create another dome light just to try to bring some reflection information to the small spheres, so we have a little bit more, because we can't really see them here. And I think we need to add a little bit more information. So what I'm going to do is to duplicate this dome light here, and this dome light's going to call dome light small spheres. So then we select the light, go on project, and we choose include. So this light's not working on the scene anymore, and it's just it's going to wait for me to bring some information here, which is going to be our cloner with the small spheres. So now you'll see, if I increase the exposure here, you're gonna see just affecting these small spheres. Let me just increase, put a high volume to it so we can see everything is going on here. But then what I can do here is to maybe rotate the light. Actually I messed up with, because I forgot to lock my window, so let me just go back to my camera, lock my render. That's going just to show us the camera angle, and I can go to my perspective view and rotate a little bit. Actually what I'm gonna do here is to remove this second cloth surface, because it's creating more geometry, and we don't need actually these extra thickness to our small spheres, because they are not so important. They are just complementary to our scene, so they're not really important. And then we also can maybe increase the amount of spheres, maybe to 20. And this is going to make the render really slow, but yeah, it's just to get a sense. I'm gonna decrease the light again, decrease the intensity. So, and then I think once again I can play with the camera, maybe to try one more new angle to see. Oh, actually it's looking interesting here. It's a little bit messy, but you know, just to get a sense of how we can work with it. And maybe we can use another camera angle. Let's try it. So I'm gonna remove these new keyframes, these old keyframes here. I'm gonna remove them. I think they're quite heavy. So okay, let's open this window again. Okay. just a little bit higher so we can see. Oh, actually it's looking good now, because once we added these those spheres and the camera was too low, they were kind of messing around here. Now we can see they're they are following a path, and yeah, it's a little bit more interesting. Of course, it's not so good as this scene here, but it gave us a sense of how to create everything. So I think we're done here, guys. This is just to give us a sense of how I created this scene here. Of course, I spent more time doing all these things here. I'm not going to show you how to add these dust here. It's just a simple thing. It's not so important. But you can render the image and you can put inside of After Effects and play a little bit with the color. But I think this is enough to make you understand how to use Matrix with REDSHIFT, how to use the camera, how to play a little bit with lights. This is important to understand that you can isolate some of the objects and put just one light to bring some more reflection information to separate objects. So this is quite important when you're doing some projects, and this is really amazing with REDSHIFT. And yeah, I hope this was really useful for you. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more content like this. So yeah, thanks guys, thanks for watching, and yeah, see you next time. Bye.